Thanks for listening to the AZ12 podcast. I'm your host, Mike Luke, joined by very special guest, Eric Cohen. You guys, Eric, you guys just had a nice little thing drop yourself. Tell us a little bit about it.
Oh, Mike, first of all, glad to be back on the show.
Absolutely.
Second time, always a pleasure. Love the chat, love the audience, love what you guys are doing. So it's an honor to be here with you, and you and I had a good time last time. Yep. So Wildcat Country, Shane Dale and myself, we did our 250th episode last night. Hey, listen, we're just having fun with it. We've done this almost 5 years. It's a good way to blow off steam when you lose 5 of 8 like Arizona has, and it's a way to react to it. So we have a good time. We actually had the same guest on yesterday that you did, but Bruce Pascoe is the best, even when he's writing articles about you wearing an ASU jersey, but you got to do what you got to do. Yeah. Nonetheless, check that out at Cat Country AZ on X.
All right, let's get to it. We were talking before we got on here, Arizona, Kansas. You made a great point. You said Tommy generally makes adjustments. I think he's done a fairly good job. He generally doesn't just do the same thing a bunch of different times. I think we're going to find that out. I can't have a 6'6" player on a 7'3" player next game, Eric. I asked for very little. I hope that this can be returned to me.
Yeah, I would hope that he would make adjustments. When you look at, and you know this better than anyone, Mike, but when you look at Tommy Lloyd's history, he hasn't lost consecutive games that often in his head coaching career. In fact, never before this year, where he lost Wisconsin and Duke, Oklahoma, West Virginia, obviously in that tournament, Kansas State and Houston. So only 3 times. We were talking about this on Wildcat Country. Is Arizona going to win another game, or are they going to go to the Sweet 16? It feels like they either go over and lose the next 2 and they're done, or they go on a run. I don't know that anything is in between. I feel like Tommy Lloyd is going to make adjustments, and I feel good about tomorrow's game.
Yeah, I do too. And honestly, and I know this will sound weird because we just lost to him, I feel that Arizona's better than Kansas. I do. It was in fog. I look at it. I think these two teams are very flawed. I see you disagreeing. Why do you think Kansas is better? What do you got?
I think they were preseason number 1 for a reason. And I know you can't always base things on that, but Hunter Dickinson is an All-American player who, no offense to Henry and Tobey, but who would you rather? If I said, who would you rather have for the tournament, you're going to take Hunter Dickinson. Right. As far as guard play, whose guard play is more consistent? Would you rather have, Kansas's guard player? So I think Kansas is the better team.
Okay.
I think Bill Self is wildly overrated as a head coach. I think he lucked into the first title that he had, when Mario Chalmers hit that lucky shot against Memphis. All right, they got another one. I get that. But I think Tommy Lloyd will make adjustments, and I think Arizona wins this game close, 5 or so.
All right, let me ask you this. You're a betting guru. What do you think the line is going to be tomorrow, Arizona, Kansas, assuming Kansas gets by UCF?
All right, so I would assume the line will be somewhere in the spread, like similar to where it was the other day, 2.5, 3 points. Anything closer, like if it's 1.5 or less, that's a must bet Arizona. I think if it's 3 or more, probably tells you the odds makers think Kansas is going to win. So, you got to look at it because Kansas doesn't have home court. I think Scheer pointed it out multiple times that they'd won on senior day, 40 years in a row, something like that.
Yeah.
So, you have that advantage. Home court's built in. That's 3.5 points. I think the line's 1.5, something like that.
Okay, I got you. All right. Let's talk then a little bit about the thing that's maddening to me about this Arizona team is you see a lot of times where you're like, oh, okay, you're playing tough ball, you're playing hard, and then there will just be these lapses or these halves where KJ Adams, who really has no offensive game, is getting dunks, getting 3 dunks, getting 4 dunks, whatever the case may be, and everybody's just kind of looking around like, hey, what happened there? What happened there? Eric, you've been watching Arizona basketball a long time. I have too. This is one of the weirdest seasons that I can remember. Just the up, the down, everything in between.
I just don't. I don't know how well constructed this team is, Mike. And I know you've talked about it, a lot. I just, in general, Caleb Love is what Caleb Love is. And I think Arizona goes as far as Caleb Love can take him. He goes and shoots 9 of 15 tomorrow. Arizona's going to win the game. 95% chance Arizona wins the game. But I feel like they need something more. Henry's been great, but Jaden Bradley is good, but is he the most consistent player out there? Right. KJ Lewis, I did not realize that he had a wrist issue. I know that's now, Pasco talked about that yesterday. I mean, he's been wildly inconsistent. Carter Bryant needs to play more. If you're ever going to play Carter Bryant,
Yes.
probably a time. Townsend, I mean, maybe we get tournament Trey that shows up.
March Trey.
I mean, March Trey was off to a good start on Saturday. So at this point, it's just a flawed roster as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's the best way that you can put it. It also was kind of weird to me too. I think going into the season without another ball handler. Listen, Jaden Bradley, again, the thing that's weird about this team, Jaden Bradley is obviously the best ball handler on the team, but even as a point guard, I like Jaden Bradley a lot, but he's still kind of a clunky ball handler. You're not going to mistake him for Jason Terry or anything like that, where it's basically, all right, just give him the ball and he's going to go by 5 people. Caleb Love, I mean, whatever. KJ Lewis, not a great ball handler. To me, that's still that's still one of the decisions that I don't get, because that was something too that was easy to see before the season. Like, everybody had concerns about, but you could look on the roster and be like, well, we don't have another ball handler. Unless you thought Conrad was going to be that.
Well,
guy.
And that's it. Who's the best ball handler on the team? Like, it's Conrad Martinez.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. It is.
So I think Tommy thought before the year that Conrad can play. And I think we all saw he's like 5'6".
Right.
I mean,
he is. Yeah, when I stood next to him, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like me going out there on the court.
Nobody wants to see that. How tall are you?
5'8.5". Okay, I take the half too. So
all right, I'm
you're like 6'4", aren't you?
5'11". 5'11".
You're 5'11"?
5'11" and change. So I'll take
gotcha.
that. But so I mean, I would tower over Conrad. It's not a good thing, even at my height, to be playing point guard on a top team in college basketball. So the thing is, Conrad, I feel like we're going to see Conrad play tomorrow. Right. And he is such a defensive liability, but he's actually kind of fun to watch. I mean, I hate to say this.
I agree. The problem with him, yes, you're right, because he's not a bad ball handler. I mean, he showed in the ASU game, you give him the open shot, he's going to take it, and you might make it. The problem, though, too, is the team's the second. It's like that meme of that guy in the yellow suit behind the tree where he's just going like this. The second he comes into the game, people are immediately like, oh, and they go right at him each time, and there's nothing that he can really do about it. It's not like he can slide or, I do this or that. He's just not. It's just some things just don't look right. That's one of the ones that just doesn't look right.
You got to go to a 2-3 zone when Conrad's in the game, and you cannot. And I will say this over and over and over again: you cannot have him and Deli on the floor at the same time. Tommy did that at the UCLA game back in December. U of A was up. They had gone on a nice run. He put him in the game, and UCLA immediately went on like a 10-2 run, before Arizona. And it's not you can't do that. But you go to a 2-3 zone, you put Conrad in there. Conrad, if you're going to win 3 games in 3 days, Conrad has to play. Yeah, he has to play.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You could say, well, Conrad's not good. Whatever the case may be, this is the hand Tommy Lloyd chose. So, it is what it is. Let me ask you this. What did you think of Tommy Lloyd's comments about McHale, about the crowd, all of that? What are your take on that, Eric?
All right, so I'm going to preface this by the fact that I haven't been to McHale in 2 years, 2.5, something like that. So, I've gone to the neutral site games, but I haven't been to McHale. So I don't want to bash him for it. The one issue that, and Shane brought this up last night, when you don't play another game in McHale Center until November,
right?
Does it really do anything to say this in March? Nobody's going to remember. Nothing good can come out of it.
Right.
If you want to say, hey, it was a great atmosphere at Fog Allen, it was a great atmosphere in Ames, that's awesome. Don't relate it to McHale. I don't care how mad he is. Don't bring up McHale.
And that to me was the point, is that it almost felt, and I like Tommy, but it almost felt like he was going into that presser almost looking for a way to maybe take a little bit of a shot or something. It just was the wrong time. You're not going to be playing here for the next 7 to 8 months. Listen, is McHale Fog Allen? I've been to Fog Allen once. I was there for the Salim game in 2003. It was one of the most amazing.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It was funny too, because when Arizona was down 8, I'm in the first half, I'm like, oh, this is going to suck. And then, Salim said, don't worry about it. But Fog Allen is at the absolute epicenter of college basketball. If it's not Fog Allen, I mean, sure, there's some critiques to be made, but if it's not Fog Allen, that's also not the end of the world. That's like saying that, well, this guy sure isn't Michael Jordan. I mean, what are we doing around here? But at the same time, I do agree with him. I think that I do think that the crowd's got to be a little bit better. I don't disagree with that. I just don't like the timing.
Yeah, I don't like the timing of it. Now, I want to ask you something. We talked about this last night on our show, so I want to ask you personally. 2 or 3 loudest games at McHale that you can remember off the top of your head, what would they be?
That Derek Williams block shot.
I was there for that one. Okay.
Yeah,
I agree. That was up there.
That was really, really loud. I'm trying to think here. That's a great question. What did you go with?
So the Derek Williams game was great. The whiteout back in 2011, that was awesome. I put UCLA back in 2002. I was a freshman at U of A. Arizona was down by 15 going into the
Salim, is that the Salim Cactus game?
It was not. That was 05. That was my third choice. That was I was behind the basket for that one, so that was fun. But the UCLA game in 02, very underrated comeback. Arizona rushed the floor, and they used the clip in McHale's intro video for years of Arizona rushing the floor in that game. Right. Those are the 3 that stand out to me. Is there anything else? I'm trying to. The other one that was thrown out there was Florida. I wasn't at the game in 2012.
That game was crazy.
So with the whole football thing that happened earlier in the day with the New Mexico Bowl, anything else that you would throw into the mix?
There was a game, I want to say it was back in about 2000 or 2001. Arizona played Michigan State. It was somewhere in there, and it was crazy because that was also right when Michigan State was at the absolute epicenter of what they were doing. I think they were just coming off a national title. I can't remember. It was somewhere between 99 and 01. That one was awesome. Arizona was obviously at the apex of its game as well.
Sure.
The thing about it though, Eric, is when you've been at a game, you remember coming away from the game and saying, "Wow, that was just a little bit different." And the games you mentioned, you probably walked out of there saying, "Man, we had an outcome in that game." Again, the players made it happen, but the crowd really kind of buoyed them into that situation.
What's the loudest football game you can remember? Now, I've been to every home game minus 2020 and the Cal game in 2021 since 2006. So what's the one that stands out to you?
I'm going to predate you on this one then. I'm going to go 1998 Arizona UCLA. That was the game where it was sold out. Arizona was a quarter away from. You got to remember that team's playing for the national championship.
Yeah,
and Chris McAllister falls down on the field against Danny Farmer. Danny Farmer takes it for a touchdown. That was the only time in my entire adult life where I'm like, man, is Arizona football? Can we actually win a national championship? That game was absolutely crazy. Just because of all that was on the line, and it was like a middle of the day game too. Trying to think here as well. Where do you put that Cal game? Were you at that Cal game for the Hail Mary?
I was one of the few that stayed because I have a rule when I go to football games, and I have pictures from the end of the game too on my phone just to prove it. That hey, I stayed. My rule is if the spread is in jeopardy or something from the betting aspect is still in jeopardy, you can't leave.
Right.
If the end result, and I just said it was 36-13 going in the fourth quarter. I said, all right, I'm going to stay. But there wasn't anyone left in the stadium. I mean, there's probably 7,500, 10,000 of us that were actually still there.
Yeah.
So okay, that was one.
You were one of them.
I was one, and I will never forget that one. That was awesome. The game that will always stand out to me was Oregon 2009. The one where they
Dennis
started
Dixon.
to rush the field. No, this was Masoli.
Jeremiah Masoli. Oh, okay.
Masoli. Where it was the primetime game. College Game Day was there. Musburger and Kirk Herbstreit called it. It was such a big game, and the fans start to rush the field, and then they have to go back in the student section. I have never heard Arizona Stadium louder than it was then. I will say that the Iowa game, I think it was the next year where the Wildcats had 3 consecutive sacks in the fourth quarter. I think it was Earl Mitchell, Brooks Reed, and my buddy Ricky Elmore had 3 sacks in a row. Yeah,
one of the more underrated defense. One of the more underrated defensive linemen in school history, by the way. Ricky
Elmore. He's a great guy. He's married to Callista, who used to be. He was a national championship winning catcher on Arizona's last national champion softball team. So that they have 2 kids, and I said, let me be the agent because those kids are going to be powerhouses.
You know what's kind of funny? If I'm not mistaken, there were 4 NFL defensive linemen on that team. You had Brooks Reed, Ricky Elmore got a cup of coffee, if I'm not mistaken.
He did.
Earl Mitchell and DeAndre Reed.
Yeah, Justin Washington was in the mix too. I believe he was another guy that started out really good as a freshman and got worse every year. But I mean, when they had 3 sacks in a row, and there are clips I think on YouTube. For those that don't know what I'm talking about, go back and watch that. It was electric in there. The Oregon game, though, was unlike anything else. And that's what I want Arizona Stadium to be. And that's where, and you and I talked about it the last time, Mike, if you want to make money as an athletic department, you got to sell out the football stadium.
You
got to do.
You got to do it, and you know what? You've got to. You know the thing about it too, and I'm hopeful. And again, like I was really hard on Brent Brennan last year, but I think that again, I think he's done some good stuff this offseason. I love seeing him get around and be at games and things like that. But you've got to be able. You can't if you're going to win or lose games, you can't bore me in the process. Last year was difficult because you weren't winning games and it was boring. At least like with Rich Rod, you were losing games and it would be like 58-48 or something, and some weird gimmick. By the way, also I want to ask you about that real quick. But we got a $10 super snap. Norin Rudin, like Tommy, but comments BS. McHale is one of the most expensive in Big 12. The games are extremely late, and the U of A marketing department has done squat. U of A needs to look in the mirror. I also the other thing too is that the public announcer, the PA system said, "Thank you for all attending. We'll see you next game," or whenever it was, or "We'll see you next season." And then 5 minutes later said, "Oh, actually, come back. We've got senior day." So,
wait, was it? You mean Jeff Dean did that at McHale Center?
No, it was the I don't know if it was Jeff Dean, but there was some announcement over there where it was like, and basically said, "Come back. We need everybody to come back." It wasn't there.
Yeah, but why are you doing your senior day at 9:00 at night?
I mean that I totally agree.
You got. I mean, something has like. This is where the Big 12 has to be better.
Yes, I agree.
Senior day, you cannot have that game at that time, especially with those two teams on a Tuesday night. You just can't do it.
And that's why it was just such a false equivalency too, where somebody's going like where they say, "Oh well, Kansas, their guys stuck." It was 4:30 in Kansas or whatever the case may be. This was 9 o'clock. This was what was this 9 o'clock on like a school and work week? I mean,
like Mike, I'm never going down. I can tell you, I'm not driving 2 hours each way on a Tuesday night to go to a game at 9 o'clock. It just doesn't make sense. If the game was at 7:30, I'd consider it. But I mean, it's just stupid. I mean, the Big 12 with those TV contracts. With that said, I wonder if things will be different next year with TNT and TBS, Turner getting involved, as part of that deal with the inside the NBA, that whole thing. I wonder if we're going to see some better game times there. So we'll find out.
All right, Mr. Tyler Warden, we have an age problem at McHale. Both old people who don't have the energy, and young people who don't honor the history or have the passion. This is an interesting. An interesting point that I want to throw off you as well. So. When I was, Richard Jefferson's about 5 years older than me, but I actually got to interview Richard Jefferson when he was at Moon Valley. It was a really cool experience. He came to play he came to play. I was a freshman in high school. He came to play Saguaro High School, where I went. And by that time, you knew that you could watch him for 5 seconds, but he's different. And I remember, I don't think he would mind me saying this because I think he was quoted as saying this later. I asked him about playing in McHale, and he goes, "McHale's weird." He said, "It's a bunch of people like blue hairs drinking prune juice, but it's also an explosive environment at times." And I just remember thinking to myself, that's when I was Richard Jefferson back in 1996 or something like that. It was just an interesting remark. What do you think about the crowd as a whole? And I know you haven't been in a couple of years, but you still have a good enough vibe.
I mean, I've probably been to 50 games there a lifetime. So like I've been to plenty. Yeah, there's a lot of older people, but I know that the comments are probably not going to like this. The older people are what kind of pay pay the way here. Cause I mean, I can't afford $10,000 a year season tickets. Right. I mean, it's just not something that's in my budget. Right. You have to find a way. What I would do is they have to do something with the student section. I agree with that. I don't know what that is. But like you got to, the people are paying the money. You got to give them the high rent district. I get it. It just is what it is.
Yeah, especially if you're going to charge an arm and a leg. I mean, I don't know what else you do, to be honest with you, because if these are the people that are going to pay those fees, because like you said, these tickets aren't cheap. My parents are some of those older people. They got a lot more money than I have. So, they can invest in things like that I can't. It's an interesting question. All right, now we got to pay some bills.
One more thing I want to say about that, and somebody I think mentioned it in the chat. The Zona Zoo, I know they have the tickets, there's 10,000 seats that are, right on the 50 or thereabouts. Different story, because football's not as in demand as McHale Center. That's why it'd be great to see McHale Center do something like they do for the Zona Zoo, where they have them front and center and everything like that. Never going to happen.
Yes, I agree. Let's see. Dennis Walsh, the great Dennis Walsh says, hey, Cody, if you could run these comments too, that'd be great. Got a lot of comments in here. McHale is a social experience event, and I agree with Eric. That's what paid the bills. I mean, that's kind of what it comes down to, like at the end of the day. All right, now, got to pay a couple bills here first. All right, Cody, let's do this. I love this one. This one's one of my favorites. Come on, Cody. Oh, Eric, I can't see you. Where'd you go?
Uh-oh.
Oh, oh, it's back now. Oh, well, it's not back. Arizona Primary Eye Care. Eric's not even in the picture. There it is. Arizona Primary Eye Care, my friend. 4 locations for routine examinations. And guess what? Have you ever gone into one of these places and they're doing all this stuff that you don't need, like they're going to remove your eyelid or something, and you don't want your eyelid removed, and you're like, I want this to stay intact. I just want to get my checkup. That's what they do. Only necessary treatment. And you can get all kinds of cool things. It's impossible, Eric, for me to look cool, but guess what? These Tom Ford glasses they gave me, about $500, they make me feel impressive. But you can do the same thing. Arizona Primary Eye Care. They got 8 new people that first week. Get in there. Again, 4 locations, including one in Douglas. Check it out. All right, now another one here. This was just joined on. BridgeTek Communications. BridgeTek Communications. All right, they have over 1,000 clients in the Western United States. If you've got a gym or a wellness spa or a health club or something, and you're like, you know what, I need to get this out there a little bit, BridgeTek Communications is your one-stop shop. Again, 100+ health entities across multiple states, 750% average ROI. BridgeTek Communications. Again, Tony is the man, and they can get your word out there. That is what they do. Okay. I wanted to go, Eric, I wanted to go player by player this year and just kind of, you don't necessarily need to give me a grade, but just kind of your overall thoughts. If you want to give a grade, it's fine.
I'll give a grade. Sure. Yeah, let's have fun with it.
Your overall thoughts we'll just kind of go position by position. Jaden Bradley, what comes to mind? What's your grade?
B, should not be the primary ball handler on this team. I said it last time. Going to stick with that. Would be great as a shooting guard. Love his defense. But not the most reliable shooter that we have on the team.
Yes. Okay. Caleb Love.
Also a B, because sometimes there's an A and sometimes there's an F. I'm going to round it up. I mean, the Iowa State moment was iconic. I know it was a fluke shot, but it was certainly iconic. We'll be talking about that shot for years and years and years. But I'm giving Caleb Love a B. What do you give Love for that one?
I give Caleb Love a B. I get people all the time. I don't believe, and I like Caleb Love. Like I said, I don't know. I don't know if I told you this story, but I saw Caleb Love one time. One of the things about it, if you talk with anybody in the program, they'll all say he might be the most liked guy on the team.
Awesome.
Everybody on the team likes him. I saw him help somebody across the street earlier this year when nobody was looking or anything. He just had his hoodie on. I thought it was one of the coolest things that I've ever seen.
Awesome.
Again, it's a small thing, but it's still, when you don't think anybody's looking, I'm always interested by how people react in those. But again, he's a good dude. I thought he was better last year. I know that he's played better defense, but let's be honest here. He's here to score the basketball. I thought he was an All-American last year. I don't look at him this year and say that he's an All-American. He's just been too up and down. I go with a B. And I think for Arizona, you needed him to be an A this year for to maybe reach that next level. I go B though. It is what it is.
The defense is a lot better. I will give you that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, now let's see here. Now we're going to go to the small forward position. This is going to be interesting. ADO first. Where does Eric Cohen, the great Eric Cohen, go with ADO?
C, maybe, and I think that's probably a little generous. Too inconsistent for me and plays no defense.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. Here's where I'm at with ADO. If ADO's in the game, I need him shooting threes. If he's not shooting threes, I don't need him in the game. That's 100%. That's really what it comes down to. He tries. He's just ADO. ADO, in my opinion, is on a good team. Is a really good 8th guy. Yeah. Paying. Sometimes he'll play 8 minutes. Sometimes he might play 17, depending on how he's shooting. That's just the way it is.
I thought he would be a better, more reliable shooter from long distance.
Yeah, I agree.
And he's not. Yeah.
All right, KJ Lewis.
I mean, honestly, relative to expectations, a D.
Yeah.
He just hasn't gotten better. He hasn't gotten better. Yeah.
I'm with you as well. I go C minus, same situation though. I think my thing with KJ is when KJ plays to his strengths and attacks the basket, 2 dribbles, getting into the paint, dishing it out. When he's playing hard-nosed defense and not just going for that steal to get the ball and get another, that he's good in that role. He really is. But when he tries to do things that he can't do, when he's trying to, when he's taking 5 3-pointers, I get the 2 of them were against the clock. I get that. Those aren't going in. You're open for a reason. And he's always gambling for steals that a lot of times he just doesn't get or aren't even close to. And I'm just not a huge fan of the body language. I said, I think he can have a real role. But I think he's got to play to his strengths. If he plays to his strengths, I think he can do that. But I just don't think he's played to his strengths this year, Eric.
Yeah, I would like to see him come back and make kind of a Dalen Terry-like jump.
Agreed.
And I don't know that he will, but I would like to see that.
Yeah, agreed. If he comes back, and like I said, I know it's very rarely that I make a good point. So if I do, I'm just going to keep. But again, play your game, man. You were blessed. KJ Lewis was blessed with some real skills. He was blessed with athleticism. He was blessed with strength. And he shows. People will be like, well, he makes all these weird stuff, and he does. A fouling 3-point shooter, 8 fouled 3-point shooters this year is insane. But there's also been games too where where you see him get into the lane, you see him set somebody else up, and you're like, man, do more of that. So yeah, we're in the same ballpark on that one. Okay, now Carter Bryant. I got a thought on Carter Bryant, but you go first.
Carter Bryant is a B relative to expectations for how Tommy uses him. This one's on Tommy, an F. I mean, Carter Bryant needs to be playing all the time.
Carter Bryant I can't ever have a game, no matter what, where Carter Bryant's playing 13 minutes.
Needs to play 30 every game.
Exactly. And here's where I'm at with Carter, and here's one of the things about Tommy that confuses me, is that so many times this year, if Carter makes a mistake, Carter's out, but anybody else on the team can stay. And I think kind of a little bit to the KJ Lewis play against Iowa State, where he fouls the guy, and it was a terrible foul. And then he says to Tommy Lloyd, keep me in the game. Keep me in the game. I won't pick up my third foul. And then he proceeds to foul the guy before the ball is even inbounded. Again, like with Carter, it just feels like there's this, you're held to a higher expectation or something than some of the other guys. Carter has the highest upside Carter has the highest upside on this team relative, obviously, to the NBA, and it's not even close. I agree with you. I don't think he's played nearly enough this season. I wanted to ask you this. If I'm Carter Bryant, and we're going to get to recruiting here in a second, but if I'm Carter Bryant, and I don't know the exact numbers, but let's say that some of that NIL, if you don't get Koa Pete, goes to Carter Bryant, whatever the case may be. Let's say you're making a lot of money. I think this is the situation, Eric, where it makes a lot of sense for him to come back, even if he's a projected 28th pick. And I'll tell you why. Because I watch Carter, and the thing about Carter is that you can just tell, and this is nothing wrong with it, he's very young. You can just tell from defensively, the fouls to I've never committed a foul, can't really handle the ball much at this point. But if he comes back another year, I think he can be an absolute monster at that small forward. And if you go from being the 27th pick to the 12th pick or whatever the case may be, a team has a lot more reason to stick with you. I think a lot of times these guys that are picked in the first round, if they don't, or at the end of the first round, a team doesn't really have a huge impetus to try to develop you if you look overwhelmed at first, because nobody cares if you miss on a 28th pick. If you're a GM and you miss on a lottery pick, then that goes against your record. I think you come back, you make $1 million or whatever the case may be, you become an All-American in the process. I think it makes a lot of sense for him to come back.
Well, and I think that's what you just hit it on the head, Mike. In this day and age, Carter Bryant needs to get paid. Arizona has to pay him $1 million. If Umar Ballo got $1 million from Indiana, and obviously we've seen how that's worked out, not that great. Carter Bryant, you want him to be your guy, and he needs to be the guy that you probably pay $750 to $1 million, and make him say, okay, listen, you can go in the first round next year and get that money, but we're going to give you $1 million to stay on campus, have fun, potentially win a national championship. Yeah, you got to pay him. Got to make it worth his while.
Let me ask you this. Is a perimeter next year of Carter Bryant, Braden Burries, and Jaden Bradley? What are your thoughts on that?
I think if they keep Krivas, Awaka, and Vasar, you're looking at a top 5 team in the country.
I agree with that. I totally agree with that. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, let's get a couple more reads in, then we're going to get to the front court here. Get to the front court. All right, let's do it. Come on, Cody. Bring it up. Longview, my friend, Longview. All right, we got some very exciting. Longview Insurance and Investments is paying for our NCAA tournament trip. Very excited by Longview. Very excited. And again, if you make a lot of money or if you don't make any money, well, you probably need to make some money. Go to Longview, though. Personalized, comprehensive financial planning, tailored retirement income strategies, distinctive wealth management solutions, highly qualified with top designers. And again, Andre Veras is the man. We will, this trip up to probably Seattle or Denver will be put on by Longview. And again, I cannot endorse Longview, but I can highly recommend. That's the terms in the, I guess, in the money industry. All right, now, one other one here. We got RJ's Frozen Cactus. All right, we had about 40 people come out the last 2 ones for it. It was awesome. Very, very, very happy with all of that and how it played out. That was great. Again, got great drink deals, food deals, RJs. We're going to be having some more parties there as well. It was great. No bad seats in the house. Played out very, very well. Thank you for everybody that attended. We had quite a few people, and that was absolutely fantastic. Okay, let's get to the front court here. Let's start with Tobe Awaka. Now,
B minus.
Now, let me ask you this. I got 2 grades here for you. What were your expectations for Tobe, and then what you've seen from him?
I thought Tobe would be a 12-8 type of player.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, that's, you're kind of a B minus is fair.
Yeah, B minus. He's just not as consistent as I would like, as far as I'm concerned.
The problem with Tobe is, I want to ask you this too. The problem with Tobe is that I just don't know. I feel with Tobe, and again, it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world because he flirts with the double-double every single game almost. Yeah. But with Tobe, he's one of those guys, like Vesar comes back next year. I expect Vesar to make a jump. I expect Vesar to be even better. Whereas with Tobe, I think Tobe is going to be exactly kind of what he is this season. I don't really see him being much different. I'm not saying that's the worst thing in the world because he's averaging 9 and 9 or whatever the case may be. I just don't know that. I think the Tobe you have this year is the Tobe that you're going to have next year for whatever it's worth.
And that's fine. I'm okay if he's your 6th man or 7th guy next year. Great. I'm good with that.
Right. Now, if you got to, let me ask you this: is a starting? So we talked about the perimeter. If you got that perimeter, and then you got Awaka and Vesar, top 5 starting lineup in the country.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Easily.
Yeah, I agree.
No question. Dude, what do you think? Do you think Krivas will be back?
Yeah, I do. I think there's such a good, and again, I mean, it's a guess, but I think there's such a close connection with him and Tommy, and I think Tommy really believes in him. And Tommy's shown one thing, that he can develop big men. He's done a really good job with that. Now, Henry, I'm going an A. This is
A plus.
A plus, man.
Plus. Yeah. A plus. I mean,
yeah. Go ahead,
Mike. We didn't have any expectations for Henry.
At all.
Nothing.
Right. I thought Henry was one of those guys that I thought would basically be a practice player. Maybe he gets in a few minutes here and there, and and then that's it. Henry has become a difference maker, and not only a different, and it started in that UCLA game. Obviously Arizona lost that game, but you looked at it and you're like, man, this dude's dunking on people. He can shoot threes. He can block shots. He can run the court. And I think next year, man, I think, statistically, this guy, I think he can be a 13 and 8, 2 block type guy. I mean, next year, I think he can make a big jump. I really do.
I think Henry is A plus. Henry is what UCLA wanted from Adaimara, who, when he played against, now I know he's gotten better since he played against Arizona, but I was like, this guy's one of the worst 7'3" players I've ever seen in my entire life. When he played against Weber.
He was, like when you watch him too, he doesn't move like Henry moves well. When you watch Mara, I was the same way. I'm like, this is not what a first round pick is supposed to look like, especially at 7'3".
Was he a nice kid when you ran into him? I saw that picture.
Great kid. It was funny because you could tell he's not on social media, but his girlfriend says to me, she says, "Oh, you're the one that always says, 'I'm sorry, Henry.'" And I said, "No, it's my bad, Henry. Get it straight." But no, great kid. I said, I basically just told him, I'm like, "Hey, you're going to stick around for another year, right?" And it was kind of funny. He says, and this is, I don't know if this is just kind of ignorance is bliss, but he goes, "Well, I don't know where I'd be going." And so I'm like, "Oh, well, all right, cool."
I mean, somebody's gonna offer money, but I think Arizona right now with this team, you keep those guys. And the other guy I know you want to bring up, just say it, Trey Townsend, a D minus.
I mean, it is what it is. Sometimes there's missy vowels. This just hasn't been good enough.
Nope, not been good enough.
It's just not been good enough. Now again, maybe March Trey becomes a thing, but
doubtful.
Yeah, very doubtful. You know what surprised me about him though, Eric, is the lack of rebounding. I thought with a guy that, I thought he would be more of a hustle type guy. Because again, I get that you can extrapolate anything, but it wasn't just the tournament last year. When you look at what he did against Illinois, against Xavier, against, I think it was Maryland, he was getting double-digit rebounds in all those games. That's the part that has surprised me the most, is that if you play him 28, 29 minutes, he's probably going to get you 3 or 4 rebounds. It's not good enough.
Mike, if we've learned something, Tommy's got to stop with these small college guys
Yes.
because it's not where, I mean, do we need to do like like Cedric Henderson,
Right.
ADO, Trey
Right.
Townsend? Give me the Courtney Ramies, the Caleb Loves, all Jaden Bradleys,
Keyshaw
Tobe Awaka,
Johnsons.
Give me the guys that have played at a higher level
Yes.
against better competition. I know sometimes it works out. There's always the Dalton Connects of the world that pan out, but most of them do not. So to me, give me the guys that have proven it against bigger competition.
If you're bringing in a player like that, this is where I'm at. He's got to be somebody that is a bench player that kind of you hope fills a 10-minute void. I can't go into any more seasons where I'm expecting a mid-major player to play 28, 30 minutes per game and be a difference maker.
That's fair.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, I even look at it. Somebody asked me, they're like, well, you need a third ball handler this year. Why don't you can just go get some guy from like, Campbell or something. No, what I would prefer is what I would prefer off the bench as a third ball handler is somebody like a Justin Kier. Somebody that played at an SEC level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know that he averaged 8 and 5 or whatever. You know that he's not going to be overwhelmed. That's the kind of guy. I couldn't agree with you more on that. You've got give me guys like you said that are playing at this level, and maybe they just need a different fit, or for whatever reason it may be.
Yeah, I mean that to me is what it's all about. Enough of these guys. We need to stop recruiting Campbell's roster. It's not like they're that good to begin with.
Right. Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly.
Let's be honest here. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yes, exactly. So that's kind of where I go. That's kind of where I go with that. That's kind of where I go with that one. All right. Now, looking ahead then a little bit then, Arizona, as far as seeding, where do you put, does it matter to you? Because again, I thought you made a great point last show, amongst many great points, where you said, if I'm Arizona, I either want a 3 or a 6.
Yeah. Well, they're not getting a 3. Even if they win. I mean, right now their ceiling is probably a 4 if they were to win the Big 12 tournament, and they probably could fall to a 7 if they lose to Kansas. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, I think they're in somewhere between 4 and 6. But yeah, 7. Anything. If you lose to Kansas, anything's kind of on the table because you would all. And I don't care what the committee says about how they don't care about the last 10 games or whatever. I think they do care about the last 10 games. I just have a hard time. If you lose 6 of your last 9 going into the tournament,
100%.
I don't care what they say. We're all humans at the end of the day. I still think that matters. So when
you look at the 2 line though, let's say Arizona's a 7. The 2 team looking at, even though I don't like Joe Lunardi, can't stand him. The teams are Michigan State, who I think is pretty good. Tennessee's overrated. Alabama plays no defense, and Texas Tech, Arizona's already beaten. Yeah. I would take my chances with any of those teams in the second round over Auburn, Duke, Houston, and potentially Florida.
Yeah,
in the Sweet 16. Yeah,
I remember, and this is the difference in college basketball this year. There's a few different ones where it's like you just look and they're different. I remember watching that Duke game, and even in warmups, or even in the beginning, I'm like, dude, we could play this team 10 times and we're not winning. I mean, the thing about it, people are like, well, Arizona didn't play well against Duke. The thing was crazy. Duke didn't play well either, and they still won by 13 or 14.
Right.
I mean, there was a shot that went viral where the Duke big man is Mulach or whatever his name is, he had already tipped the ball to the guy, and Krivas hadn't even jumped yet. Like, it was just like there was just a disparity.
And obviously Henry's gotten better as the season's gone along. So are those Duke freshmen. I mean, Duke is my pick to win it all right now. If you were to ask who's going to be in the finals, it'd be Duke and Houston. Those are the 2 best teams in my opinion. Auburn is really good, but there's some consistency issues there. I think Duke and Houston are the 2 best teams that I've seen.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that either. Houston's another team too that Arizona played really well with Arizona played fairly well against Houston, but the thing about Houston just has so many dogs though. And well, the one I did not see, my big concern for Houston going into this season was how are you going to replace Jamal Shed? Because he was the heart and soul of that team. He was the one guy offensively that could do it. Milos Uzan has turned into a monster for them.
Yeah.
So,
and Crier's a really good player as well. So I'll tell you what, I think Houston's going to be a tough out. Now, if a team shoots the lights out against them, somebody said in the chat, I think Andy in the chat said he's not sold on Florida. I actually was not sure what to think about them, but watching them go on the road and have some really big road victories. I think they won at Auburn, at Alabama, for example, at Tennessee. Like, that's big time right there.
Yeah, for sure. But to me, there's three teams that I just look at and I'm like, there's absolutely no way that Arizona beats them. And those are the ones. Also, a bad matchup for Arizona is Iowa State. I know that Arizona beat Iowa State, but
Oh,
there's some
fluky, but yeah.
Did you watch that game and think that Arizona was better than Iowa State?
Not at all.
No,
No.
right.
No.
Yeah.
Now, Iowa State right now is playing Cincinnati. They're up by 10 in the second. And they're Cincinnati's kind of hanging in. Watch out for BYU, though, Mike. I mean, BYU could knock out. Iowa State at the end of the year has not been as good as they were. I think they might have peaked too early like Arizona did.
Well, and I think the thing with Iowa State is you always wonder because that's a team that brought back everybody. So you always wonder with teams like that too, how much better can you really get? Are you basically the version of last year's, over last year's team? Okay. All right. Now let's pay a couple more bills and then we're going to get into Sweet 16 or bust. I'm stealing that from Shane and Eric right there. All right. Baggins, everybody, we need to go to Baggins today and tweet out code AZ12 and tag me in it so we can get this, again, Baggins is great. They've got one up in your neck of the woods, Eric.
Right around the corner from me. I saw that like about 10 minutes. So I need to go over there, use code AZ12. I want my 15% off.
You want your 50% off and you deserve your 15%
Thank you.
off.
Thank you.
And guess what? You can get a cookie in the process as well. Baggins is great. Everybody go in there. And say AZ12 sent you. It makes me look good, and I need all the help in the world to look good. Use Baggins 12 locations. All right, now, Aeris Dental, my friend, Aeris Dental. All right, now, here's the great thing about Aeris Dental. You can get dental implants there for $19.97. It's called the Championship Package. Generally, if you're going to get the dental implants for and the crown for $1,900, you're going to have to go to like Burundi or something to have it done. This, you can do it here in Tucson, and you won't have to pay $8,500, and you can keep your tongue in the process because they only offer necessary treatment. Land the man with the master plan. Yes, Dennis Walsh, they are pro-tongue there. It is big. They are pro-tongue there. Dental implants at affordable rates, daily, urgent care. Okay, I agree with you. I think Arizona, if Arizona gets to the round of 32, I don't think they're losing at the round of 32. I think they're either, if they lose early, it's going to be in the first round or the Sweet 16. I'm stealing your guys' point because I like it.
Yeah, I think so too, Mike. This is a team that, first of all, I think they're going to beat Kansas, and then I think they lose to Texas Tech. And then I think they go in the first round, and I think as long as they don't play like a Drake or somebody like that, which they probably shouldn't, Drake will be a 9 or a 10. That's a very dangerous out, by the way. So Arizona wins that game. So then let's say Arizona's a 6. Then they go up against the likes of let me look at Lenardi has Kentucky is a 3. Arizona can beat them. They have Iowa State, A&M, who I think Arizona can beat.
Yes,
so let's say it's Arizona and A&M. In the second round. I think Arizona wins that game. Then you get a 2 seed. I hope it's not Michigan State, but if it's Arizona, Tennessee,
I'll take my chances against a Rick Barnes team in March. I'll take my chances.
If they make it that far. Otherwise, you could see an upset. Whoever plays Tennessee, that's upset potential when you're filling out your brackets. So I'll say that this team I think has a lead 8 or lose in the first round. With so let's say Sweet 16 or lose in the first round with an Elite 8 ceiling. I don't think a Final Four is this. I don't think this team's a Final Four caliber, but what do you think?
Let me ask you this. What do you think the line would be? I'm going to pick your brain here a little bit. And again, this is just off the top of your head. We're not holding you to it. Okay. Arizona A&M, what's that line?
Neutral court A&M minus 2.5-ish.
Okay. Yeah. But again, all right. Arizona, Tennessee, neutral court. What do you got?
Tennessee minus 4.5 because you're going to get that SEC bias. Now, I didn't look at Ken Palm. Let's see. So A&M is ranked behind Arizona. So actually, Arizona's 16th in Ken Palm, A&M 17. That line will be closer to 1.5 either way, honestly.
That's my point, is that's a very winnable game for Arizona.
It is. Tennessee's probably 4.5-ish over Arizona, somewhere in that ballpark, and I still think Arizona plus 160 on the money line. I'd be playing that all day.
All right, Arizona, Michigan State. What's that line?
I'm higher probably on Michigan State than most. I'm really impressed with what I've seen from them. They're 8 in Ken Palm. Michigan State minus 3.5-ish. The
Okay.
team that I want Arizona to be matched up, if you're going to be a 4-5,
Hmm.
there's one team I'm on a second round matchup, and that's Michigan.
Yeah.
I think they are completely fraudulent, Mike.
You know what Michigan is to me, and I've been telling Sheer this all year. Michigan to me is the epitome of all the Big Ten crappy teams that we have to hear about every single year, where they get 30 teams in and they're super unathletic. You watch them, there's nothing that Michigan does that impresses me in the least. Every time I've watched Michigan 4 times this year, so I consider myself an expert. Well, I mean, I consider myself an expert. But I have never come away impressed by them at all. I think that this is the epitome of, they're in the Big Ten. I could see them getting bounced in the first round, and it would not surprise me in the least. They do absolutely. I watched that Illinois game against them, and I was like, ugh. Yeah, so I have nothing good to say about it.
Let me ask you this. I know I don't want to go too far off topic. If Illinois were to lose early, would you take a sense of pride in that?
I felt bad. One of the things about me is that I'm a weirdo and I'm a nerd. I always try to but man up when I'm wrong. And I was wrong what I said. Kylan tweeted at me. I should have kept it on sports or just not responded. That was 1,000% on me. Because one of the things about me is I pride myself in saying that it's just sports, all of that. I got away from my code there.
He shouldn't be tweeting you, by the way. He should. You don't. That's not a great move not a great look on his part. But okay.
Last year during the post games here at Arizona, he would within 10 minutes he would get on and start replying to me and start tweeting at me like within 10 minutes, and that's when I realized I'm like, there's something here that's a little bit different. But yes, I will take a little bit of glory in it though, because I basically stood against the entire Illinois fan base this season. I'm doing a Spaces with them on Monday.
Really?
It's going to be me.
Good for you.
It's going to be me versus like 500 people, but you know what? It's, I told them I would do it, so I'm going to do it. But yeah, I will take pride in, I will take, we'll send the link out there, but I will, for sure. Just because here's my thing. I didn't actually start all the stuff. They were coming at me talking about, and now that he's out of a toxic environment, Illinois, he's at a real school, this or that. And at that point, I'm going to get defensive. At that point, I'm going to be like, all right, well, Arizona and Illinois were, in the grand scheme of things, are kind of on 2 different levels. But that's, that's what it is. I will take, yes, but I am petty in that regard. I will take a little bit.
Yeah, if they lose in the first round.
Yes.
I know. I cannot wait to look at your Twitter feed if and when Illinois. I'm actually kind of rooting for Illinois to lose early just for this. The other one I want to ask you about, I know you're probably going to get to it at some point. So Graham Rossini came out today and said Hurley's back. Mm-hmm. Okay. I am going to actually agree with you that I do not believe Bobby Hurley will be Arizona State's head coach next year.
Agreed. I 1,000%, and here's why I don't believe that, and a couple different things. I stand by that. First of all, I think this is how this reads to me. And again, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Here's how this reads to me. You want somebody to come get that buyout from him, or you lower it and he moves on, because you would have extended him a year or something like that if you thought that this to me read very much like, okay, we don't really want you to be our coach, but guess what? We don't want to have to pay your buyout. So somebody please come get him. We can negotiate this. And he ends up at like USF or, something like that. I'm just throwing out example. I don't believe that he will be Arizona State's coach next year. I stand by that.
I believe that a team like in the Big East, and I don't know, like Providence has had a bad year. Yeah. If they decide to make a change, it's a great fit for Bobby Hurley. He won at Buffalo. His dad was a big time coach in New Jersey high school. His brother is in the Big. I mean, it'd be fun to. And I don't know. Maybe he wouldn't want to go face his brother and get his ass kicked by Danny twice a year. I mean, he may not.
Right.
With that said, I do not believe Bobby Hurley will be Arizona State's head coach. I think this is their way of saying, all right, if nobody else takes you, great. But somebody come pick him up. He's available, and that's what I think this was, in my opinion.
You know what I think? You know what I think so interesting about this too is that with Bobby Hurley, and what I've first of all, it's still to this day, and I shouldn't be surprised anymore. It surprises me that he's not a good coach. That when you watch them, it's basically just kind of roll the ball out there, do whatever. And I get people that are like, well, next year, imagine if he's got Quaintance and Pete and all that. Here's where I'm at with Bobby Hurley. If he's got a lot of talent, they'll go 21-14. If he doesn't have talent, they're going to go 15-14. I just don't believe that you can ever really get an apex moment with Bobby Hurley. I just don't think that he coaches like that. And I think he loses it. I think the fact that he loses control of himself so much is something that you see with his teams as well. I don't think you can give him a really good roster and get really, really good results. I just don't think that.
My buddies who are big ASU fans, they love the talent that he brings in year after year and just hate his coaching. And they're basketball guys. I mean, these are guys that play basketball, and they're like, this guy's one of the worst coaches we've ever seen.
Yes.
With that said, there was something on Shear's message board I wanted to address. I figured this is the time to do it. Somebody asked, well, how would you feel? And you might have been the one, Mike. How would you feel if Joe Santanen said, I want to go play for Arizona? He's a talented player. I am personally against anybody that plays for ASU playing for Arizona or vice versa. The Jacob Kongaika transferring, I hate it. It's one thing for coaching. And it's one thing for, with Greg Byrne, obviously, Danny Gonzalez, who is ASU's DC.
When you're on the field, it's different. I agree with you entirely.
You cannot go from playing Arizona football to ASU football. You cannot do it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I wouldn't want anybody. And I'll give you an idea. That Quaintance kid's awesome. I like him a lot. I wouldn't want anybody from ASU, period. I don't think you can do it. Like you said, I think with coaching, I think with administrative situations, I think it's a little bit different. I don't want anybody from ASU. And I agree with you as well. I wouldn't want, if I'm ASU, I wouldn't want anybody from U of A either. The Kongaika thing makes no sense to me whatsoever.
I believe that the NCAA should institute a rule that gives every school 2 teams that they can block transfers to, immediate transfers to.
I agree with that. I like that a lot. I think it's a great idea. Oh, we're going to get to some little bit of football here. We got some people asking they want some football takes from the great Eric Cohen. All right, let's pay our last bills though, and we're going to get to a little bit of Arizona football. All right, what do we got here? All right, let's see here. What do we got, Cody? All right. Swift Mortgage, my friends. Swift Mortgage and the Rubin Group at Swift Mortgage. Here's the deal. He can help you buy, sell, or refinance. And being that he's a senior loan officer, he has access to banks and stuff that other people do not have. And he has access to rates that others do not have as well. And he wants to help you. Use code GRANTJARRETT, interesting, for $500 off closing costs. Again, local to Tucson. He can help you. He's got a lot of different people that he's helped out over the years. Again, Swift Mortgage and the Rubin Group. Michael Rubin, he is the man. Also, let's see here. Let's do it, Cody. Comfort X HVAC. First of all, they are hiring. They need another technician. So if you need, that's because they're expanding. Small business with big savings. Our good friend Anthony Cimino used them, saved over $2,000 going through them. Oh, look at Anthony Cimino. He's never been happier in his life. And again, with Comfort X HVAC, though, if you use code Wildcats, you can get 10% off or AZ12. Just tell them that I sent you, or we just want to get credit for that. Perfect track record, and again, they can help you out. Boom. Okay. Eric, let's get to a little bit of football. Oh, Green Valley Decorative Rock. I apologize. Sorry, I had one more. Green Valley Decorative Rock. All right, there's a terrible rumor going around about Green Valley Decorative Rock. Eric, do you know about this?
I mean, I'm unfamiliar. Do tell.
There's a rumor going around that they're only in Green Valley. Can you believe this?
That's awful. Come on.
It's scurrilous is too light of a term for it. They are in Tucson as well. And again, welcome to the Rock, Sean Connery. But 2 convenient locations, Tucson plus Green Valley, 50 plus locally sourced landscaping materials serving residents and contractors. They go all the way up to Oracle, west to Marana, east to Sierra Vista, Benson, and south to Nogales. Green Valley Decorative Rock. Welcome to the Rock. All right. Okay. Rich Rod first. What are your thoughts on Rich Rod of West Virginia?
Love him. Love him. I love it. You know what? I don't care about all the other stuff. He's going to win. He's going to win games there. He's going to do exactly. Yeah, he's going to listen. They popped. They should have been in the national championship game if they didn't choke in 2007 or 2006. when they lost 13-9 to Pitt as the number 2 team in the country. I think they will be in the running in the Big 12. I think they will be consistently better than Arizona because of Rich Rod.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. I loved Rich Rod. I thought I thought that Arizona was lucky to have Rich Rod. I know that he was far from perfect. I get that, but I was always entertained. Even when Arizona's going, then that 3-9 year, he was still doing weird things. I loved watching his pressers. I loved Rich Rod. I believe that, and this will sound maybe defeatist. I don't care. I believe if you could make somebody like Rich Rod a lifer, that's the best Arizona can do, and you absolutely take that every single day of the week. I think he's going to kill it at West Virginia.
I will say this, I do too. I was looking at a guy that I respect, and I really enjoy reading collegefootballnews.com, Pete Futek.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, Futek's the man.
Yeah, Futek's great. So I was looking at his rankings for his top, ranking every team in the country. And where would you think, I don't know if you've looked yet, where would you think he has Arizona ranked going into 2025?
Being that you're asking me this, is probably higher than I would think.
Let me put it this way. I started in the 75 to 100 page.
Well, I would probably put about 70, something like that. Where's he got him?
54.
If Arizona's 54 next year, it is a success. It's a success because you're probably also winning 6 games. If you're 54, I'll take it. Boom. I'll take it.
Let me ask you something. And I wanted to discuss this last time with you. I figure you're the one that could maybe talk some sense into me. I've had season tickets at Arizona Stadium since 2006. I've been to just about every game there, minus 2020. Thank God I missed 70-7. And then the one time that Jed had his first victory, I had COVID, so I couldn't go to that. Okay, fine. Every other game I've been to since then. I'm not planning on renewing my tickets this year. Here's my logic. The games are generally too late. And by buying season tickets, it's not like I can sell them or give them away to people who are actually going to go. So my feeling is, hey, I'll still go to 3-4 games at minimum, and I'll buy tickets separately. Is that sound logic, or should I be a better fan and keep my long-standing season ticket?
No, honestly, Eric, I think at this time with Arizona football, they got to show you. I have no problem with any fan that says that. I mean, last year, how do I put this? The fact that a diehard fan like yourself, it's just kind of like, you know what, I'll get a couple singles. I mean, I think at some point you also need to make it be known that some of this stuff's not acceptable. From the late times to the product that was put out on the field last year, I get it. I mean, I got to go to it, obviously, because I'm I'm technically a media member. But
I may apply for a media pass, Mike, and
you should.
And hang out with you up there because
you should. You absolutely should. You'd be
probably
credentialed immediately. No,
right.
Of course you would be credentialed. You kidding me?
I could get one, but and I'm not trying to be cheap here. I'm just saying, like the Kansas State game on a Friday night. Sure, I'd love to go to that. That's a terrible time. I mean,
right.
Driving down to the Houston game in November from the Phoenix area took me 3 hours to get to Tucson.
Yeah.
I mean, and then the game was 8:00. I'm watching 2 lousy teams. Like, I don't know.
No, I do. I totally get it. I have no qualms whatsoever with that. And again, last year too, the thing that bothered me a lot is I think with Arizona football, and again, I get where Arizona is on the pecking order, but I really think you got to get the community involved. I don't,
he's done a better job.
He's done a much better job.
You and Scheer pushed it to your credit, and he and the staff has done a much better job this offseason.
Much better job. So again, I'm going to give him credit on that, but I think he's at the point, and I had a bunch of people that have told me this, and I'm sure you have as well, that said, you know what, you want to get me back, win games. That's where I think that. But
I also think it's beyond that, though, Mike. I think the TV times and the scheduling is so bad. Like when I'm in my early 40s, fine, I can still drive, but I'm like I got home at 1:50 a.m. from a game in September that Arizona, I don't remember one of those games. I was like, what am I doing? Like, is this really the life that I want for myself, where I'm getting home at 2 a.m? I just like that is the big, if I knew that we were going to have 5 games in the afternoon, it'd be one thing. And maybe the TNT TBS deal will help me out. But I think that's the biggest problem. And also Dennis brought up a point in the chat, and it's true. When I came on here last time, you and I gave marketing advice to Arizona. Mm-hmm. And what are they doing to incentivize me to renew my tickets? To enter a drawing that I'm going to get entered into a drawing that I have no chance of winning.
Correct.
I've been in there for 20 years and never won anything. Yes, so what's that mean?
Yeah, I just don't think as far as that I just don't think they get that part. I really don't. And the fact, like I said, that we're this part, and that's really what your way to engage, and try to get people to the games. You have no chance of winning that one. Literally none. So
I'm the guy they should be, and I'm not saying, look at me. I'm the guy that's been for 20 years and renews my tickets the first day, and we're now a month and a half in. I haven't renewed. They should be calling me saying, "What do we need to do?" That's what the marketing department should be. I work in marketing. I mean, you got to do something. Got to get creative, and what they're doing is not it.
Yeah, for sure. 1,000%. I totally agree with you. Let me ask you this now. What is your, forget what the prognosticators have. You're a betting expert. What does Eric Cohen have Arizona as the OU next year? And would you go over or under on your own OU?
If I were to set the line, and I saw Sheer posted the line that I hadn't seen at the win total. I think it's 5.5 is what they put out at FanDuel.
Yeah.
I would have put the line at 4.5. And I think Arizona's at 5-17.
Yeah,
right
I
now.
would agree with that.
I can make an argument for 6 wins, but I have a hard time going above that. Then again, last year I said 9 wins, and they weren't even close. So who knows? I think with a veteran quarterback, it helps. The schedule is trickier, but if you can beat Kansas State and get off to a 3-0 start at home, you got something there. If you lose to Kansas State, you're 2-1. I mean, things could spiral. I like what Brent Brennan's done. As Shelby said in the chat, I love the Seth Dagey hire. You've had him. You guys have interviewed him, which is very cool. We also got a chance to talk to Danny Gonzalez, so I know you did as well.
Oh, yeah.
I was impressed with Danny. Losing Akina hurts from the standpoint of who's he going to take with him to Texas. That's what I'm concerned about.
Yeah, for sure. I think with – I'm going to be interested to see what it's going to look like, because I would expect with Seth Dagey that you're going to have at least a coherent offensive strategy. That was the thing that, like, last year just baffled me. Every single game, it felt like we were doing either the delayed handoff or Noah was running back 20 yards to throw it 30 yards into the end zone. And it was interesting when we had Seth on, or Seth, like I know him. I said, "What do you got to work with Noah?" And he said, "We got to get his feet right first." He said, "You look at it last year." And that's where I think it's just kind of basic coaching that I don't know that he necessarily got last year. So I think having a coherent offensive mind in there is at least something that I'm excited about.
Mike, I'm telling you, there are times when I've gone to games over the years and I said, I could call better plays than these guys. Last year was one of them. And the first few years of Mike Stoops' administration, when they had Mike Canales, who got plenty of other jobs in college football somehow, was before Sonny Dykes came in. It was dreadful. The offense was dreadful under Mike Stoops. I couldn't believe how horrendous. Like, I could call better play. I don't even know schemes and everything like that. And I can do better with Noah Fafita and Tedero McMillan. It was mind-blowing how awful they were. The offensive line is what concerns me from an offensive standpoint. Yeah. That guy Wooten, I hope he doesn't play. He was like a turnstile. I mean, he's huge. He looks the part from Oregon. But I've never seen an offensive tackle come in and get beaten up like a turnstile like that guy did against Colorado and beyond.
And honestly, with a guy like Wooten too, I just don't know how much better guys like that can get. Now watch, he turns out to be.
He's got the tools. I mean, he's 6'6" and 350 pounds.
But man,
maybe somebody can coach him. It was so bad.
That was some of the worst offensive tackle performance I've ever seen here, because you knew it got to the point though, Eric, where you're literally if you're watching football and you're zeroed in on an offensive lineman, you know that something bad is probably occurring, and that's the point that it got to with him.
Yeah. And the other problem with the football team is it's one thing to be upset and disappointed and sad. It's another thing to be apathetic. And that's where I got to last year. I left the ASU game at halftime. I think I told you this for the first time that I left a game that early since I was in college, when they played LSU and USC the year they split national titles when Nick Saban and Pete Carroll were coaching. Teams that were just outclassed. To watch, to get the apathy where I'm like, I'm out of here. I drove 2 hours each way to say, I'm out of here, not even staying 2 hours of the game. That's when I said, I can't renew these tickets. I'm excited for the season. I want to see him show me something, but got to be better.
Yeah, got to be better. All right, Eric, it's always a privilege to have you on, my guy. We'll claim victory that we got Bruce on before you did. It was real quick. It was funny. So when I messaged him and I said, "Hey, Bruce," and he says, "Honestly, Mike, I've got going on 5 things." And he says, "And I'm going on Shane and Eric's show as well." And I said, "Bruce, can you just give me 10 to 15 minutes?" And he's like, "All right, I can do it."
He's the best.
He's the best.
He's on it. And that's what I appreciate about Bruce, and I appreciate about you too. Like, tell it like it is. I know that, some people are not always going to like, well, you guys are too negative. Be honest. I'm not, I don't want to be, I'll be a fanboy at times, and I'm going to tell you when they stink at times. And you do the same. Yeah.
It is what it is. All right. Where can they find you doing your work? And again, drop something out there. Just drop something new as well.
All right. Well, check out Wildcat Country at Cat Country AZ. And also, if you want to follow me doing other things in the sports betting world, check out Sportsline and Sportsline's YouTube page. I'm hosting a golf podcast for them on Tuesday nights. If you like to bet and make money, maybe not listen to me, but the other 3 guys I'm on with are really good.
OC Bodybuilders. Also follow him on Twitter at Cohen's Corner, my friend. Yes, where can you find your stuff?
At Cohen's Corner AZ, you can see that. Find me on X, and happy to interact with you. Mike's a lot more entertaining of a follow than I am. I will tell you that, though.
Eric's the man. We appreciate you. We'll have you on again soon, my man.
Thanks, buddy. Enjoy.
All right, for Eric Cohen, I am merely Mike Luke. Everybody in the comments. What do you got, Cody?
As a note, the Iowa State-Cincinnati game has concluded. Iowa State 76, Cincinnati 56.
That's a shocker.
Pulled away.
That's a shocker. Appreciate you, Cody. All right, everybody in the comments, you guys are the best. We'll be back with you on the post game tomorrow. For Eric Cohen, Cody Martin, I'm merely Mike Luke. You've been listening to the AZ12 podcast.